Hey guys, what is up and welcome to a new League of Legends video. So I think it's definitely time to finally update the top 5 assassin list because there's been so many things happening to the current assassins, and on top of everything else, a brand new assassin coming out being Echo. I have to say that this was probably one of the hardest assassin lists to make out of all the ones I have made so far because there's just so many changes. But after a lot of thought and looking through a lot of statistics, I think I finally made a good list. So if you end up enjoying this one, don't forget to hit the like button and share it with your friends. And also if you're wondering why a certain champion was not on the list, I'll leave a comment underneath this video explaining. And do not forget that when I do make these lists, I take a mix of my opinion and what I think is just truly good in solo queue. But without further ado, let's go to the number 5 spot. Starting it all off is going to be Diana. This is the champion that I think overall is just a solid pick for mid lane when you want to play an assassin type champion while also not really wanting to die too much and being able to take a lot of damage. I mean, she definitely still fits into the meta quite well, and she also has a surprising amount of damage with your Q followed by your W, R on top of the opponent, probably auto attack a couple times, and then R once again. And I've noticed that Diana has a pretty solid power spike once you get 2 or 3 items, especially if one of those items is a Luden's Echo. She really is a champion that I think you cannot underestimate because she will go on you and she will do a lot of damage and be very difficult to take down. On top of all that, her E ability brings in some nice AoE CC, her passive oddly enough applies to structures, which is a really good bonus, and overall just a very solid pick for many teams right now in solo queue. You can think of her as kind of the tankier version of Echo. The cons of Diana is the fact that Luden's Echo recently did get nerfed, which indirectly does affect her because she does somewhat rely on Luden's Echo because she gets a huge power spike whenever she finishes that item. Since with her ultimate and her dashing around so often, she can proc the stacks on Luden's Echo very quickly. And Diana is very reliant on landing her Q ability on her opponent because if you miss, usually that means you cannot initiate on that target since you cannot really use your ultimate without having it go on a 20-second cooldown. But other than that, Diana is a very versatile champion that is just a solid pick overall. But moving into the number 4 spot is going to be LeBlanc, a champion that was previously in my number 1 spot on a lot of my assassin lists, but this time moving all the way down to the number 4. And quite honestly, I was thinking of maybe not even including her in this list. But after really thinking it through, I still feel like she deserves to be mentioned in this list. And the main reason for that, even though she did get nerfed recently somewhat decently as well, is the fact that her damage is still very much there. And her W speed got slowed down by quite a bit, which is a decent hit, and on top of that, her chains are supposed to be a lot more difficult to land now, and overall just maintain on your target, but they did not touch her damage. So with all that being said, I still feel like she's somewhat effective in the meta because yeah, she can't necessarily burst down a tank, she can definitely CC them down, and she can easily escape any tank initiations while also having the option of just simply going right through them with her W and annihilating someone in the backline and then going back to her W again. So with that being said, even though she did get nerfed recently, her options in her kit are still there. She can still easily do what she used to be able to do, it's just she's a bit slower on it right now. Still has one of the safest and highest burst damage of many champions in the mid lane, especially assassins. Her laning phase is still very strong, though not as strong as it used to be, again due to the nerf on her W and her E. So if you're laning against someone that has somewhat good reaction, they can easily dodge your W if they have some sort of dash. And the final pearl of LeBlanc is, like always, she snowballs like a monster, and this is probably not a champion you want to see ahead. The first con of LeBlanc is very similar to Diana's because again, LeBlanc was somewhat reliant on Luden's Echo being able to do so much more damage with her burst. And also very much like Diana, she can stack up Luden's Echo very quickly since LeBlanc does dash around quite a bit. Then you have the big hits on her W and her E ability, not really nerfing her damage or anything like that, but she is much slower and not as easy to do the same thing that she used to do because the opponents, if they're fast enough, can definitely react to her abilities much better. And the final thing is that she has very minimal wave clear. Now what I mean by this is that if the opponents are pushing in, I mean you have to pretty much go right into their face to wave clear, and that's not usually something you want to be able to do nor can do. But overall, LeBlanc is still quite strong, but there's definitely better champions now. But as we move to the number 3 champion, we're going to be talking about someone that I feel like a lot of people will be happy I'm finally mentioning. This is finally Talon's time because now I think he's just simply a better version of Zed after the numerous Zed nerfs. So the great thing is about Talon is the fact that he can easily 100 to 0 a squishy and even a semi-tank champion. He's not too bad in the current meta either because he can definitely go past the front line and get to the back line, which is right now very important in an assassin. And I'm also very pleased with Talon's wave clear. Now obviously it's not the best, but you have to remind remind yourself that he is an assassin champion, so the fact that he has even a decent wave clear is already a big plus. The slows that he provides with his W and now his E ability are also quite useful, and I have to say the silence, even though it is missed, the slow on his E ability is not really a bad thing, because what it does is help you stick to your champion that you're trying to kill much easier, especially if the jungler is coming into gank. The 99% slow on the E ability is going to be very useful. The next pro is probably one of my favorite things about Talon, and that's that he has a very low cooldown on his ultimate, very similar to a Yasuo ultimate. And Talon's ultimate is actually very strong because it helps you assassinate your target so much easier, it helps you get away from bad situations, and it can help you wave clear as well. And probably the second most favorite thing about Talon for me is the fact that his Q not only being able to do a ridiculous amount of damage and being an auto attack resetter, but it also applies to structures, not just towers, structures, which includes inhibitors and Nexus Tower. Overall, I'm finally respecting Talon once again. I think he's a solid champion and probably the best AD assassin right now. The cons of this bad boy is the fact that he can be a little difficult to escape after you get a kill while diving in with your full combo, and also pink wards could definitely counter his engage, since a lot of the times you might be engaging with your ultimate or when you try using your ultimate to get away. Making our way into the number 2 spot, we're going to be talking about Fizz. This is the champion I feel like a lot of people hate and absolutely despise facing, and probably one of the more feared assassins. But that's all for very good reason. I really think that Fizz might be the strongest assassin in the game, but there's one very crucial reason as to why I put him in the number 2 spot and not the number 1 spot, which I'll mention later. So Fizz is known to be insanely slippery, especially if you have 40% cooldown reduction, being able to use your Q ability and your E ability every few seconds. This makes it the most painful thing ever when trying to catch him or kill him. The great thing about Fizz is that he has as much potential to go through a tank as he does to go through a squishy. Now obviously not to the same level, but thanks to his W doing % damage, it is very possible. As you just recently saw in the Veigar, once he gets level 6 he has a very dangerous all-in because you can just simply throw your shark and assuming you landed, you will probably kill your opponent, especially if you have Ignite, or at least make them burn both summoner spells. Fizz has a very good power spike mid game and also scales quite well into late game. His kit is kind of simple because he doesn't have really any skill shots except for his ultimate. A lot of it's just kind of point and click. So not the hardest champion to play. On top of that, his E ability, if you have at least decent reflexes, you can dodge a lot of enemy abilities, and the damage in this ability is nothing to laugh at. And on top of him overall having just a very strong and solid kit that's quite simple to use, his ultimate is the perfect way to set up a kill. And his Q ability that gives him so much more mobility can also proc Lichbane. The cons of Fizz is that he has minimal wave clear and no poke abilities. Now I know he has a good AoE ability with his E, but when the enemy team is pushing into your tower, you can't just simply go into the middle of the team using your E ability to wave clear and not expect them to instantly dive you and kill you. And his laning phase isn't really the best, nor is it the worst, but if an opportunity does arise, Fizz can easily take advantage of it. But for a lot of the time, if you're facing a ranged opponent, you're gonna have to play very safe. And finally, the number 1 spot is going to be the newest assassin that has recently joined the League of Legends, Ekko. Now I really highly doubt this comes as a surprise to many people. Ekko has been somewhat infamous when it comes to the League of Legends community, everyone thinking that he's just simply way too strong. And I will agree with you, I mean he is definitely quite strong. But I feel like Fizz might honestly be stronger than Ekko, but the only reason Ekko is in the number 1 spot is because he's just a new champion. And because he's a new champion, I feel like a lot of people simply do not know how to play against him just yet, so you can easily turn that into your advantage. The only bad thing about Ekko is that he's probably getting banned in 90% of ranked games. However, the few times he is not banned, I highly recommend picking him up and stomping your games. So he has good trading potential in the laning phase if you land both of your Qs, or at least one of them, follow up with an E on auto attack, proc your passive, and use your move speed to simply run out or go in for the kill. He's an assassin champion that has a shield and even a stun. Now this is something that is somewhat unheard of. I mean Yasuo is somewhat of an assassin champion too, and he has a knockup, so it's not completely out of this world. However, the fact that it's an AoE stun makes it somewhat strong, especially when you combine the fact that his W also has a passive ability giving him % damage, which helps him kill low HP targets and really be able to go through tanks as well. You have his ultimate that can easily save you from a bad situation or just do an absurd amount of damage, but it is a little difficult to land, which is where I really recommend getting a Zhonya's to make things much easier. Not only does his E ability have 2 types of dashes giving you great mobility, but it can go over walls, even walls that seem a little too thick. And on top of that, he has a lot of damage from his E ability and it procs on hit effects, once again like a Lich Bane. Overall, Ekko is just very difficult to deal with right now, one because he is quite strong, and two, he's still a new champion, so people might not know what to do when you get ahead, or simply how to prevent you from getting ahead. The cons of Ekko, he's probably gonna get nerfed once again, and his ultimate and his W can be very difficult to land if you're not used to it. But other than that, a solid champion that I recommend picking up. That is it for this top 5 assassins, guys, updated to the most recent patch. A new assassin has joined the fray, a lot of other assassins got nerfed, and there's a lot of other assassins I did want to include in this list, but it's just so hard to find room. If you did not see the champion that you thought you would see in this video, then check the comments down below and I'll probably have an explanation as to why. But if you did enjoy the video, guys, please do throw in a like, subscribe if you haven't, share it with your friends, and I'd really much appreciate it. Also, check out the other videos as well if you haven't, and I'll see you for the next one. Peace.